Retailers have nearly a week less time between Thanksgiving and Christmas versus last year, and coming out of port strikes and hurricanes that snarled supply chains, the holiday sales season is starting earlier, well, at least than usual. Joining us now, Flexport founder and CEO Ryan Petersen. Ryan, great to be here with you. So already had this short shopping season. We've got a lot of inventory in there. It seems like retailers sort of need to discount, but not so much that consumers hold off on buying. It could be a tricky situation.
Definitely a strange season. We've known about this potential port strike all year. That contract, everyone knew was up for renegotiation. We did have a short strikes, but people planned for what might have been a much longer strike. And there's a lot of inventory in stock. We surveyed Flexport's customers. We're one of the largest providers of international freight solutions in the country. We surveyed our customers. Almost 80% of them say they have either enough inventory or too much inventory on hand because they were planning for potentially a longer strike. And so you may see a lot of discounts and other offers here to try to clear out this inventory backlog.
And maybe they won't need to bring over as much, which I guess could affect your business. Another part of your business that we want to talk about some more is the last mile logistics biz that you bought from Shopify a little more than a year. I guess it's been almost a year and a half now ago. You made some cuts initially when you came back as CEO. You've recently made some more cuts. What's tough about that business right now? What are you trying to get done?
Actually, that business is doing great. We recently kind of brought it closer together with our international business, and we were able to find some savings there as we did that. But that's always a very competitive market going in, and people sign long-term deals here, and it's very sticky. Like you sign up a customer, this is the core of your e-commerce operation. It's not something people just swap around where your international freight, hey, you can use a new container provider every day and your business is probably okay. Your fulfillment, you really want to get it dialed. So longer sales cycle than we're maybe used to on the international side of things. But once you get the customer, they're very loyal, they're sticky if you do a good job for them.
Ryan, it's Morgan. I want to go back to the inventory buildup, pre-strike that you were just talking about, and this idea of, getting ready for peak season earlier than usual. What does that mean, especially at a time where inventory buildup has been a real tailwind for broader GDP? What does that mean in terms of freight flows and activity you're expecting through the rest of this year?
Yeah, hey, Morgan. Yeah, it's a great, it's a really interesting, complex challenge is that these companies had to plan for a potentially longer port strike. They brought a lot of inventory in. Some of it was diverting to the West Coast. So, for example, August had the highest month of imports into the West Coast. Other than the pandemic, it was on record the highest. I think May of 2022 was slightly higher. But we're basically on the West Coast back to that level. So now companies are sort of like, one, they may have too much inventory. It may be more on the West Coast than they would like it to be. And so there's kind of this rebalancing that goes on to be ready for what comes next. And then there's all kinds of disruption. We saw last couple of weeks with hurricanes on the East Coast that have slowed some things down, made trucking capacity a problem. The Red Sea earlier this year. So I think brands are starting to learn this lesson. It's like you got to have extra inventory if you want to ride out these problems. I mentioned 80% had enough inventory or too much. That means 20% may not have enough inventory in stock. So it's always it's very hard to plan for the future. Sometimes you have too much inventory, sometimes not enough. And getting that balance right is just a real challenge.